In this video, I'll be painting a full sheet watercolor of the dunes on the central coast of California. I'll be using this photo I took from a hill about 3 miles from the shore. This compressed image is an interesting challenge as to how to convey the scale of the dunes. So I've sketched in the major shapes. I've got the skyline here. This is where the sea meets the land. And then the dunes here. And I've got a large tree on the left-hand side, and then clumps of trees on the right-hand side. Green field here, and then some warmer tone with a nice hill here to create some motion. First off, I'm going to put in the sky, the clouds. I'm going to try to leave some lighter areas. What I'm going to do is use a large 3-inch brush and wet in areas where I want gray clouds and leave white areas where I want white clouds. And then I'll come in with the paint. Since this is 300-pound paper, it can take a lot of water and stay wet for quite a while. I'm going to bring this water all the way down into the water, into the ocean. Leaving the top of the dunes dry. So we're going to deal with those later. This is all pretty gray or cloudy. Down here, okay, I think I've got what I need there. I'm mixing up some ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre. I'm going to put in some sky blue, ultramarine blue mixed with the yellow ochre. In this painting, I'm using the sky to set the mood, not necessarily be the subject or the focal point for the painting. Okay, I think I'm going to let this dry. It's a little different than what I had in mind, but that's the way watercolor works sometimes. Okay, it's dry now, so I'm going to start working on the water line here. Just a tiny bit of the ocean showing just above the dunes here. So it's just going to be a darker version of this blue. Then I'll gray it down some with burnt sienna. Not a lot though. Don't want to lose too much of that chroma intensity of the blue. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to go right over, so I brought the sky down. The darker I go, the more contrast I'm going to have with the sand and the dunes. And that'll dry back a little bit. Now we can start to see the dunes taking shape. This particular painting I think is going to work better as a full sheet. This is a full sheet of 22 by 30. If I didn't mention that before. Just because of each of the slices of the landscape, the ocean, the dunes, and some of the trees here, which we'll put in, they're very small, they're very thin, so I think it'll read better in a larger format like this. Now I'm going to add some variation to the water here, I think, right in here. So I'm going to lift this up some. Just so it's not so monotonous. Very subtle, but that's fine. So what I may do now is wash the rest of this with a lighter yellow ochre or raw sienna. I just need to avoid some of the white areas here. So I'm thinking of Hansa Yellow with some raw Sienna. And if I leave a little white in the dunes, it's not a bad thing. If I go a little bit lighter here, just to change it up some. Here I'm pre-wetting some of the areas before I charge in the yellow. Okay, I'll let that dry a bit and we'll continue on. Okay, this is dry for the most part. What I think I'll do now is put in these trees and then they can be drying while I work on the horizon. Put in some of the distant trees down here and then some earth tones, shrubs and things to go in and around the dunes. I mixed up several earth tones and muted greens to work on the trees. And I'm primarily looking at my edges when I'm doing these trees. I'm going to go a little darker down here. It's more in the shadows, right off the edge of the paper. I'll let some blooms happen there, and that'll sort of self-draw a beginnings of a foreground tree. Try to set that one foreground and darker. Add some yellow to it to green it up a bit. Kind of made a mess of my burnt sienna well there, so I'll have to clean that later. That happens. I'll brighten this up just a tad bit here. Paint with this hand, then I don't have to get my head in the shot. Then go with this lighter green down here. Again, getting some blooming action. Blooming isn't always bad. Can add character to the painting. That's my tree mass. It's almost. I got that side to do here. Maybe we'll go dark. Yeah, go dark over here. Sometimes I'll charge in some lavender, but it can be fun to change the tone up a little bit. That'll probably dry back to the point where I can't even see it, but it looks good now. Okay, so for this area, we'll go with a lighter green. Then we've got this tree over here. This is a darker tree, going back to the previous tone that we had. More blue than green. Let's add some yellow to that. Oh, that's interesting. We'll just do that and then I'll charge in a little warm tones. Now, while I'm doing this, I could put in the green field here. this is going to be the hillside. Let's put in burnt sienna in here. That warms things up quite a bit. There's some shadow from the tree there. Just kind of make that tree disappear into the ground. To get grayish warm here, this is the dirt patch. Then we can go a little blue since it's further in the distance. This area here, before I get rid of my green, I need to put some of that in. They're not sky holes, they're field holes. Much lighter stuff going on here. Now I'm getting close to this building here. This building helps give us scale to the whole thing. Because it's hard to tell with the dunes in the distance. Your mind doesn't think that they're that far away. So hopefully this helps solve that scale issue. Some nice dark trees there. more of a golden. This is like a nickel, nickel. It makes a nice green with the ultramarine blue too. That'll create a nice buffer between the upper trees here that we'll be putting in and the rest of this. Okay, now I'm going to put in the brown warm tones around the dunes. We'll start with some burnt sienna. We kind of let those mix on the palette, and I can swipe through, pick different tones. So where I don't paint is where the dunes will be. I guess it's all dunes, but I mean where the sand shows. We'll make this area here nice and dark compared to the other areas I put in by adding some more blue and more burnt sienna. Now while the rest of this dries, well, we can work on this little building here. These are just marks to help sell the idea of some sort of buildings. Now I can put in some of these trees here. They're very distant, so I'm going to use a smaller brush. And the key with this is to vary it. This line here needs to be sharp, not blurred. It's really a hill forward of this field in the background. So I need to define that a little bit better. I'm mixing some of this rust and blue. I like to darken some of the foreground just to point the viewer towards the middle background and then ultimately the background and sky. To finish this painting off, there are a few minor details that I want to add. One being a few hints of branches in the trees. Darken this area a little bit more to bring the eye more towards the focal point. And then I think I will add some trees up in here on the far side of this field. All right, so to start with, I think I will work on these branches, which is simply just a dark, small brush and then a few gestures, nothing really defined. So I'll grab my needle brush, mix up some Ultramarine Blue, don't need much. While I've got this brush out, I'll work on putting some planting rows in here. And I'm dragging the brush, the belly of the brush across to get that dry brush look. So I need to decide where that tree line is. I think it will go something like this. When I started this painting, I knew it was going to be a challenge to depict these dunes at the right scale. And that's why I put the buildings in here. It's a fairly good sized building, fairly good sized trees down here, and some outbuildings and tanks and things like that that go along with the fields and the farm. Then there's the sky. The sky takes up most of the space on the paper, but I didn't mean for it to be the focal point. Maybe it is. There might be some dynamic between the dunes, the white building in the middle, and the sky. I probably should have clarified that some, but it is what it is. It's watercolor and can't really go back in, but maybe I'll try this as another watercolor or maybe an oil painting sometime. Well, thank you for watching this one. And if you wouldn't mind, give me a thumbs up and perhaps subscribe if you like. And we'll see you on the next one.